Are you tired of relying solely on ads to monetize your podcast? Join us this week as I interview Mathew Passy, a podcasting expert since 2007, to uncover innovative strategies for generating revenue beyond traditional advertising. Discover why monetization should be a part of your podcasting strategy from day one, and learn how to leverage membership models, affiliate marketing, and even your guest list to boost your income. Whether you're a seasoned podcaster or just starting out, this episode is packed with valuable insight to help you maximize your podcast's earning potential. Don't miss this opportunity to transform your podcast from a passion project into a profitable venture. Hello, incurable creators. I'm excited to bring you some bonus episodes featuring exclusive interviews from the 2023 PodUp Virtual Podcasting Summit. Each Thursday for months, you're going to hear interviews from a diverse range of podcasting and marketing experts. My hope is these repurposed interviews will inspire you with new ideas and insights to take your podcast to the next level. And of course, remember to listen every Tuesday for our regular episodes of Podcasting Secrets as well. Now, let's dive into today's bonus interview from PodUp's 2013 Podcasting Summit. Hello, I'm Nathan William, the CEO of PodUp and your host for the Podcasting Summit. In this interview, I am speaking with Mathew Passy. Mathew is the founder and former owner of The Podcast Consultant. He is also the former president of Sweet Recording, and he's been in the podcasting space since 2007. And in this interview, we're going to talk about monetizing your podcast beyond ads. So Mathew, why would people want to monetize their podcast beyond ads?
Well, I mean, the real question becomes whether or not monetization is even why you're doing a podcast. And when we do consulting calls, when we do launch calls, anytime we're working with a podcaster, we always want to know their why. Why do you have a podcast? You know, the reason could be, it's fun. I like doing it. It gives me a chance to hang out with my friends. Cool. Enjoy it. Do what you're going to do. Don't worry about making money. That's not the point of it. If later on you get the chance to, awesome. But, you know, don't waste too much effort on that if you're just doing it for fun. For a lot of folks, or, you know, the folks that we typically work with, it was, you know, it's a good way for me to grow my brand, grow my business, bring in more sales, more leads for the places where we do make money. In which case, again, direct monetization off their podcast, maybe not truly necessary. But there are a lot of folks out there, the reason why they're doing a podcast is because it is a business for them, and it is something that either has to make money, right? It's going to be a strong source of income for what it is that they want to do, or at the very least, it can't lose them money, right? It can't cost them more money to produce this content than they're going to make back on it. So that's the first thing you have to think about is, why am I doing this podcast? And if the reason is I need to make money off of it, well, obviously the big way that people make money off podcasts is advertising, right? I am going to sell access to my audience, to different brands, different organizations, different products that want access to them. If you want to go down that route, plenty of ways to do that. Lots of opportunity out there, plenty of services that can help you with that. All well and good. But for a lot of podcasters, it's not easy to do. And it's especially not something that they're going to be able to do from the get-go, because in order to sell ads, you have to have an audience. And most podcasters start with no downloads. So, you know, we worked with a lot of clients who, one, not only write, how do I make money off this podcast early on, but two, they also weren't trying to build a marketing product for other people, right? I'm not doing all this work so I can then sell my audience to someone else. So we were trying to help them figure out how can they make money if advertising is not going to be the route that they want to take.
Okay, so before we go into some specific strategies, I want to debunk a false belief that I've heard a lot of people bring up. There are surprisingly a lot of entrepreneurs that feel guilty about making money. They feel guilty about charging for something. They think that they have to apologize for charging for something. And they think that they want a podcast so that they can have a voice, so that they can have reach, which are all good reasons to do it. Maybe it's even a nonprofit, and they feel like we're here to do good. We're not here to make money, and we just want reach and influence and impact, which is great. There's nothing wrong with that. I would propose that monetizing your podcast allows you to have greater reach and impact, if that is the strategy where you're going. If you come into this and say, I'm not looking to make money, I just want to reach and influence, fine. But it's kind of like an adoption agency who opens up and says, I want to help as many people as possible, so I'm going to do very, very inexpensive adoptions. Well, what happens is because they're not charging money, they can't do a good job, they can't do marketing, they can't do advertising, they can't provide good services, they can't do all the legal work, and they cut corners, and pretty soon that adoption agency is out of business, and they weren't able to help very many people. Where on the other side, the adoption agency that charged money was able to actually help a lot more people and have more influence, a lot more reach, because they had the resources to expand what they were doing. If your goal is reach and influence, I encourage you to not turn off your desire for monetization, because your monetization may give you a lot more reach and influence than otherwise. What are your thoughts on that, Matthew?
I would say even if the monetization itself doesn't buy you that reach and influence, what it does buy you is time, so that you can then focus your efforts on the things that are more important to you. So to your point, right, that's a very altruistic look at it for an adoption agency, right? We don't want to charge a lot of money because we are providing a good service. But even talking to a business owner who doesn't have that kind of altruism in mind, right? They want to do a podcast because it's going to help them do X, Y, and Z with their business. So they kind of feel bad charging for it. What I would say is, if you have to produce your podcast yourself, right, that is a lot of hours that takes you away from doing the thing that you're actually better at doing and where you actually can make money and have an impact. Whereas if you are monetizing your podcast, even if, again, it doesn't give you profit, if it's not like this huge income stream that is helping you buy a yacht, if nothing else, it helps you get yourself a producer, get yourself an editor, get yourself someone who can do social media for you, right? All those things that are going to buy some ad, right? It's going to enable and empower you to do more with this good cause podcast. And we actually, I did a podcast for a long time called Cause Pods, where we spoke to podcasters who specifically were using their platform for a good purpose. And, it came up many, many times that it's hard for them to do these things because they usually don't have money. They're usually doing it on a shoestring, or they're all volunteers kind of working on this kind of thing. And so, yeah, right, trying to encourage them to be okay with accepting revenue or earning revenue just so that they can do what they want to do better. It doesn't automatically soil what they're doing.
I completely agree. And I think regardless what your motive is for doing a podcast, monetization should be in your strategy, because it will probably help you achieve whatever it is that objective.
Yeah. Or again, if you're just having fun with it, that's okay too. You'll just have probably a little bit more fun if you can also, turn a little profit on it, or at least not have to eat into your own personal budget to grow it, to expand it, to improve on it.
That's right. Even if you're just doing it for fun, there comes a point where you have other competing priorities, right? Other things that become more important. And the chance of you, if you're just doing it for fun and not making money off of it, the chance of you stopping doing it because you get to a point where you don't want to keep putting money in, you don't want to keep investing the time and not getting as much out of it, you probably will keep doing it longer for fun if you add the monetization to it.
When we talk to clients about our production services, I always joke that, I don't think podcast editing is necessarily difficult. It does not take a doctorate or, a master's degree or anything like that to edit podcasts. What we offer isn't necessarily some huge service that nobody could do, but the people that we worked with, what we were giving them was time, right? It's not that they couldn't edit their podcast if they wanted to. It's that the time it takes them to edit their podcast, they're probably making a lot more money doing their job than what they're spending on us to do it for them. It's like mowing my lawn. Can I mow my lawn? Sure, I'm honestly capable of mowing my lawn. But the money I spend for someone else to do it gives me time to do the things that are more important to me. Say, spending time with my family, working on something, like whatever that is. So it's not just the money, it's buying time, and time is our most valuable asset.
Let's talk about timing of this. I know there's a lot of people who think that you can't monetize until you've done it for a year and you have a certain amount of following and downloads. What are your thoughts on that? When is the right time to start monetizing? When are we ready to start focusing on this?
Well, so one thing I would say, and this does go back to the ads portion of the conversation, which I know we're trying to talk about, podcasting beyond monetization beyond ads. But if you have any plan to monetize your podcast in the future via advertising, I would encourage you to start putting in ad breaks on day one. Even if you honestly can't sell that ad break, put in a break, put in an ad, put in a message, put in something so that you train your audience to get used to that happening. If it's part of the structure early on, they can't complain in a year from now when all of a sudden you're doing your show and now you break, in the middle for an ad. You've already done that. You've already trained them to expect that there's a break in the show. That's the one thing that happens with people when they start advertising out of the blue. The first thing they do is they hear from people saying, "What's up, man? I don't want ads. I don't want you to make money." Like, you don't need that stress. So start putting messaging in your show right away, whether it's an ad for yourself, for your services, promotional messaging like, "Hey, follow us on Twitter," or "We're checking, we're doing something new," or, even create some affiliate sales for yourself, right? Like, just train your audience to expect that this is a marketing platform, not just a free content service that you're providing to them. But the truth is, again, it goes back to why you're doing this. So if your goal is to have fun with it, all right, don't worry about monetizing from day one, right? Keep your focus on what's important to you. Good content, having fun, and, building engagement with your audience. If building revenue from this is important, you should be starting with it right away. And you might ask, how do we do that? Well, we've seen plenty of cases of people who either they approached businesses or, brands in their industry to say, "We're doing this podcast. We're going to, get you in on the early side of things," right? If you sponsor us now at this low price, right, we're going to grow it to this. We're going to give you this all kind of exposure. And then when it gets bigger, we're going to have more expensive deals and, you'll be locked in. So you could start monetizing your show right away, especially in the advertising route. It's a little easier, though, if you are well-focused, have a really well-defined niche, and, you could turn to an advertiser and say, "We know at least everybody who's going to listen is your target audience. Might not be a huge audience, but at least everyone who's there is someone who is of interest to you." That said, if you are not going to go the advertising route and you're going to do things like, let's say, again, affiliate sales, no reason to not have that set up from day one, right? The first day you talk about a product or a service that is of interest to your audience, you should have a place where they can click on, subscribe, get access to that service, and you can get a share of the revenue that that company is earning. No reason not to do it. The other thing you should be doing is thinking about some form of membership offering to your audience. What does that mean? That can look like a couple of different things, right? It can mean setting up a Patreon where you take donations, right? "Hey, we really want to do this show. We love it, but, we're not going to be able to do it for free. So if you want to see this content, like, please give us a little bit each month, and, that'll help to keep the show going." It could be in the form of premium content, right? Maybe you're a journalist, or, maybe you're a movie production company that's putting out like really highly produced, scripted, dramatic, right? Stuff that it's just not going to survive as a free product. And so you say, "Hey, we're going to put out this incredible show, but you have to pay for it in order to get access to it," right? That's okay if that's going to be your model, right? We're going to make this stuff out there, but you can't get it for free, right? Netflix does it, Hulu does it, right? Everybody does it. It's okay for podcasters to do it as well. There's also just this premium membership idea, right? You're a podcaster and maybe you're going to do, extra value add for your audience, for your listeners, if they're willing to pay you to be part of some sort of membership tier, right? We have clients who do ad-free version for people who subscribe. We have clients who will give out, extra resources. So maybe transcripts or more in detail show notes, if that's appropriate for your topic. That doesn't really work for everyone, but there are cases where your show notes, your research is very valuable. And so people may subscribe to that. We've also seen where people just give out access, right? You're a coach, you're a consultant, you're someone who is selling your services through your podcast. Maybe that membership, right? Maybe that premium membership that your listeners can buy into gets them a monthly AMA with you, right? More direct access to you. Maybe it gets them early access to events that you might be planning. Maybe we have a client who did this when he started off. He was a chess teacher. He started a podcast in chess. He did a $2 a month Patreon, right? Not a lot of money, but $2 a month. Everybody who paid could find out who the guest was going to be ahead of time and submit questions. And then the host would read those questions to the guest. And now not only did the audience get to sort of engage with the guest, right? These big names in the chess world, but they also kind of felt ownership of the show, right? They would go out there and they would say, hey, check it out. My question was on an episode of this show. And now the people who are paying you are now doing the advertising and the advocating for you. So there's a lot of ways that you can turn value and access into massive benefits for your show. And another point on the membership, donation, premium tier thing. Advertising in the podcasting space, it's typically what they call a CPM, cost per 1,000 downloads. And the average CPM in the world is $25. So if you get 1,000 listeners, somebody pays you $25 to access them, they are basically paying you 2.5 cents for each person that listens to your show.
Is that per download?
That would be per ad. So yeah, so 2.5 cents per download, right? Assuming each download is a person, right? You're getting 2.5 cents basically for every time somebody accesses that show. So that's 1,000 people. If I get one person at a $5 a month premium, that's a way higher per person rate than that advertising rate. Now it takes 5 people to get $25 a month as opposed to 1,000 downloads to try and reach that same goal. The math is just so much better for the podcaster right there.
Plus you have recurring stability, right? If a podcast platform doesn't show you as high in their results and you don't get quite as many downloads, or it allows you month to month to kind of know what you can count on and make decisions and hire people and make commitments and buy ads and things, because you know how much money you're going to have next month. You're not just dependent upon what actually comes in.
You also know who these people are, right? One of the big downfalls of podcasting is that we as the podcaster, we have very little visibility into who our audience is. They're nameless, faceless downloads or listens or whatever. But if they are subscribing to your content, you get a name, you get an email address, you might even be able to create a profile of who they are based on what your signup looks like. That is information and data that is so much more valuable to you than just being able to turn to someone and say, yeah, I got 1,000 downloads. Who are these people? I don't know.
Building your skyscraper on land you own. You're owning your own platform when you turn it into a membership site. Yeah, there's 3 main platforms that you can own. Most podcasters, they're on, dozens of different platforms that other people own. Social platforms like Facebook and Instagram, podcasting platforms like Apple Podcasts and Spotify, video platforms like YouTube, blog platforms like Medium. But those are ones other people own. It's like building a skyscraper on leased land. But what are the ones you actually own, right? It's your email list, it's your website where you publish content on, and it's your membership site. Those are the only 3 I can really think of. Maybe an email newsletter that goes out to your list. Any other ones I'm not thinking of?
No, I mean the RSS feed, you can own that as well, right? You can have subscribers to a show without having to rely on an Apple or a Google or a Spotify or one of those things. It's obviously a lot more difficult, but there have been cases of people who have put out content that was delisted or removed for whatever reason that might be. But if you have an RSS feed, you can't stop people from accessing your content. There are some barriers, but there's a way around it, right? To your point, you can build the skyscraper on your own land as opposed to leasing it from somebody else and then having to, get water from this utility, electric from this utility, right? It's a great analogy.
I love how you talked about starting off with affiliate. That's a great place. Anybody can start there. And a lot of people think that's only in the beginning. But I know some people I know a guy who lives near me. He has about 200,000 followers, and he still does primarily affiliate ads, affiliate deals. And he'll go cut a unique deal with somebody. The last deal he did, I believe he made over $1 million of sales to his list. It still can be wildly successful even when you're larger, because it allows you to leverage this following you have and just keep putting new products in here that you don't have to develop. So don't give up on affiliate ads even when you get bigger. trying to still may work for your niche.
Well, of course, when you're smaller, right, it's hard to convince a company to pay you when you have no track record. However, if you can set up your own affiliate deals, right, you work with a company and you say, hey, even if you just sign up on their website, right, you don't even have to really work with them, right? I get an affiliate link from someone, I start to promote that on my show, I can literally get a report that says, out of my 300 downloads this month, I moved 75 units of whatever this product is. Now I could turn to a real advertiser and say, listen, I know I don't have a huge audience, but look at the kind of engagement I get with this audience. And that is very, that is something that can be very convincing to someone who's thinking about taking a chance on you.
Or you can even develop your own product. There was a company where it was Harry's Razors. I don't remember the name of the company. One of those famous razors companies was one of their big advertisers, and that advertiser dropped. And they were in a bad spot where they didn't have an advertiser to fill the spot. So instead of freaking out and going and trying to find another advertiser, they created their own razor company, put their own brand on it, and made a fortune because they already knew that their audience wanted to buy that product. So you might even look at advertisers as your research to find out what people are really willing to buy. What is your audience really willing to buy? And if you find something it's a home run, you might consider building it yourself.
Yeah. And again, it doesn't have to be advertising other people's services. You can advertise your own. There are plenty of podcasts that are brought to you by or sponsored by the company that person works for, right? That's the point of this product for them, is to market what it is that they do and what they offer and their services.
Yeah. And your point from the very beginning, where you encouraged people to put the ad tags in their content from day one. One of the reasons I love that recommendation is because even if you're going to ultimately sell your own products and services, you can use your ad inventory to sell your own products and services. So in almost any scenario, that's a good direction to go.
I mean, we love talking to clients about dynamic ad technology, which, a couple of platforms have it, but it's the ability to put in ads and change them with a click of the button. And so even if you're not selling ads, even if all you're using it for is your own promotional messaging, wouldn't it be great to, for all of the any episode that anybody downloads in the month of October, have some sort of messaging around an event that's happening in October, or maybe something that's Halloween themed. And then come November, being able to push another button, and whether it's episode 1 or episode 500, the person downloading that episode gets something that's now Thanksgiving themed, or, approaching the holidays themed, right? Like, there's just so much power behind the ability to update your messaging for any podcast. And again, could be events you're doing, sales you're running, maybe you've just launched a newsletter, or maybe you're just trying something out. Maybe there's a show you want to promote. Having the ability to put marketing on your show is just limitless if you know how to do it, and if you're proactive about it.
Yeah. Okay. So we've talked about affiliate deals. We've talked about memberships. And real quick about memberships, can you give us some examples of some of the best memberships you've seen other people do that have been the most effective?
So like I said, one of the first ones was this chess teacher that I worked with. He did $1 and $2 Patreon donations, which meant he was getting, people signing up to find out who the guest was ahead of time and submit questions. He was also dropping their names on the credits of the show. And he quickly grew to a few hundred people because it became this like badge of honor for folks to be a sponsor of this show within the chess world. And then when companies came around, he was able to add to that and then turn that into a sponsorship of sort. We have another show where, again, they do a very highly technical show, right? Where they're talking about things with, that needs a lot of charts, a lot of graphs, a lot of white papers. And so part of their membership was access to all of their research and content that went into that show for people who kind of wanted to like really dig into the numbers, really dig into all the other information. So that was a key one. We actually work with a client who they are not comfortable having ads on their show. They do not want to endorse a product. However, what they have done instead of advertising products, what they do is they turn to a product and they would say, hey, Rolex, you don't have to pay me anything, right? But do me a favor, give these people over here who are paying me to be in my membership a deal on a Rolex. And so now he can say to his audience, listen, I'm not getting any money for Rolex, but if you're a member of my group, you will get this very exclusive deal to go buy this product. And so it costs Rolex nothing to support him. And he's giving this incredible value away to the people who listen to his show. And he doesn't have to feel like he is breaking his ethics by endorsing a product. We've seen lots of cases where people will do memberships to do, again, ad-free shows, right? Early access. So maybe you put out content a week earlier for people who subscribe to your platform, and then it comes out for free for everybody else. People getting extra content. So I'm going to give out 3 episodes a month, but that 4th one, you have to be a member to get it. We have one I was talking about earlier, doing like an AMA, maybe like a private AMA, but this is, the host interviews other people, but then he does a AMA where he gets interviewed, and he only puts a little sneak peek of that in his feed for people to access the full thing. They've got to, be a paying member. You can have other things like membership groups. So we work with another podcast that does a lot of work in the climate space. And it's not just that they're interested in climate, but they're actual investors in climate. And so what they started to do was they created this Slack channel, and people had to pay to become a member of the Slack channel. And now the Slack channel is this huge community of VCs and investors and startups, and they're all working together and collaborating with a shared passion and a shared theme. And the podcaster is making money for facilitating that group, all based on a podcast he started a few years prior to that. So, I mean, the ability to monetize your podcast, to monetize your audience, is limitless. I wouldn't say you have to copy everything that other people do, right? It's got to be applicable to your space. But, there are lots of ways that you can turn to someone and say, we have more value we can provide for you in exchange for a few dollars a month. And if you can do that, and if you can really create compelling, value, there's no reason that you can't make a ton of money off of your membership versus whatever you can make in advertising. Again, exclusive Facebook groups, discounts on upcoming events, or early access, free tickets to events, whereas, they're open to the public, everybody else has to pay. I mean, I could go on and on, but I know we can't talk forever on this topic.
Okay, you spoke about being able to sell your own internal products. What are some of the best internal products that you've seen podcasters sell? I guess your own membership site is one of those.
Yeah, I mean, your own membership site is definitely one of them. What we actually see people do, it's less about selling the product and more just about, acquiring people into their sales funnel. Now, most of the clients that we worked with are in the finance space. So a lot of what they were doing was trying to acquire, new investments, new investors, new families. So it was a little bit more of an abstract, we're going to give out all this great information. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about finance. We're going to talk about topics that are interesting, to the people who we think are on our core audience. And then we would see a pickup in people who are clicking links to learn more, to contact us, to email us, to join the newsletter, right? All those different things. I would say what I've honestly seen more successful than just the audience as a potential client are the podcasters who don't even care about the audience, but who care about the guests. We have had clients who will literally say, if 20 people listen to the show, I don't care. Having a podcast is going to allow me to speak to and get me a conversation with someone who I would not otherwise be able to talk to, right? They're not going to take cold calls. They're not going to take cold emails, but an invitation to a podcast, they'll say yes. We'll spend an hour doting on them, giving them a glowing thing, letting them speak, letting them do whatever, telling them they're amazing. And now that person is in my network, is my friend, and that relationship will be way more profitable to me than any clients I sign from the audience.
Okay, so what you're saying, just to make sure I'm understanding, is one of the great ways to monetize a podcast is whatever niche you're in, identify who your ideal customer is, and invite those ideal customers onto your show as guests. Let's say you sell to CFOs. You have a product that are sold to corporate CFOs. Then do a show for CFOs, invite CFOs on the show as your guests, and build relationships with your ideal customers, promote them, get them to know you, like you, and share you. and give them tons of value. And then a significant portion of those you may be able to sell to. They'll at least listen to your pitch because you've given them value.
If nothing else, they might introduce you to other CFOs that they know. One case where we've actually seen this is a little bit more indirect is you have let's say again, like a financial advisor, and they want to target wealthier people in their community. So they'll, instead of doing a show for wealthy people in the community, right, which nobody's going to listen to that and nobody really wants to create that, they would do a show about their community. They will do successful businesses of Cherry Hill, New Jersey. And so what they get to do is they talk to business owners in their local community. They get to ask, right, because nobody's ever interviewing these folks, right? Everyone wants Elon Musk and, Tim Cook and all these titans of business. But, the guy who runs the 4 restaurants in your town, who's probably sitting on $500,000 easy, nobody ever invites him on a podcast. So he's delighted to come and talk about it. He's delighted that you're taking interest in what he does. Now that you've built a friendship with him, he's delighted to introduce you to other people who he probably knows as being a business owner, as being well connected. And so we've seen folks just launch shows that it's like the success of their town, or, here's what makes our town interesting. And it allows them to network and really build community with these people who are now going to be in their target market for clients. And it doesn't have to be a hard sell. It could just be at the end of the conversation, the restaurant owner says, "So Matthew, what do you do?" "Oh, I'm an accountant. I do this. And they could say, "It's funny. I've been thinking I need a new accountant. We should talk." Just like that.
You've added so much value, Matthew, and I think we got through maybe 2 of our predetermined questions. Is there one more monetization strategy or secret you'd like to share with us?
The last one, and this is a little taboo, but is charging people to be on your show. And the reason why I want to bring this one up is because there are folks who will immediately say it's tacky, it's wrong, you shouldn't do it. How dare you? How can you charge people to be a guest on your show? And what I would say is it's not for everyone. It's definitely not something that I would encourage people to do right off the bat. But if you're going to go down that route, because it is a legitimate route, there are a few things you want to do to make sure that it is done correctly and it is done, in a way that I think doesn't go against the ethical questions that people have, which is 1, be super transparent, right? I've gotten an email from folks who invite me on their podcast, and then when I go to book it, they say, "Great, it's going to be $500. Like, that's not what you asked me. You asked me to be a guest. You didn't ask me if I want to pay to be on your show. So, be upfront, be transparent to the guests that you are asking them if they would like access to your audience for a fee. Fine. Number 2, let your audience know, right? Your audience should know, hey, these people paid to be in front of you. Because otherwise, 1, you could be in violation of some FTC rules if you don't do that. But 2, it's wrong, right? You are convincing your audience that these people are special when in fact they just paid for access. So, it's okay if you have a coveted audience and people are willing to pay you to gain access to them to be on your show, as long as you disclose that information to everybody and you are upfront and transparent about it. But we have clients who have turned their shows, literally they'll say, we interview a lot of people in our space, and now there are people who want to be on their show who weren't going to be. And so they've become guests and then advertisers, and it's fully transparent, fully disclosed. And even if people don't listen to the show, they still get to take that episode with them, the person who paid for access, and they get to share it with their audience, be like, check me out, right? Look at me. Even if it's just something they want to put on their website as an introduction to, hey, get to know me. I was on this show. It could be helpful to them. So, some people will quickly say you should never sell access to your show. I don't agree with that. You just have to do it correctly and honestly for it to be okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it is a good strategy if you do it right. I think one of the biggest things you have to be careful of with that strategy is reducing the quality of your show. If you have the ability to get real high-level guests and you're letting people buy their way in and they're really low-level guests and then they're trying to do advertorials, it's going to really bring down the quality, which could affect your download. So you've got to make sure if they're on, you still do the best you can to make the quality as high as possible, and you don't do it every episode. You still are bringing in primarily those real high-level guests.
Again, you have to care about the content of your show. If you don't care about the content of your show, everything that we're talking about, it's a waste.
All right, Matthew, if our audience has enjoyed this episode as I have, and they've received a bunch of value as I have, and they want to learn more about you and your products and services, how they could work with you, what are the best ways for them to do that?
Well, you can still go check out thepodcastconsultant.com. That's our former company that does production, consultations, podcast audits, all sorts of great services for podcasters, especially those that are businesses or brands, or you're looking for a little bit more of a corporate or professional product. And me personally, I've got some thoughts and ideas and new projects that I'm going to be coming out with pretty soon. So just look for Mathew Passy on social media. I think there's only one of me that spells it with one T of Matthew and no E in Passy.
And to our audience who is watching or listening, if you have not yet taken advantage of the free VIP upgrade for the summit, I encourage you to click the button below and find out 4 super cool bonuses that cost you absolutely nothing. Thank you very much for watching or listening to this episode, and I wish you success in your monetization. And here are my key takeaways from this episode. Number 1, monetization should be considered from day one, even if it's not the primary goal of your podcast. Number 2, monetizing your podcast can provide resources to improve quality, reach, and impact, even for nonprofit or altruistic ventures. Number 3, start incorporating ad breaks or promotional messages early to accustom your audience to monetization efforts. Number 4, affiliate marketing is an effective strategy for monetization, regardless of podcast size or following. Number 5, membership models can be more profitable than traditional advertising, offering higher per listener revenue and recurring income. Number 6, successful membership strategies include exclusive content, early access, direct interaction with hosts, and community building opportunities. Number 7, podcasts can be used to build relationships with ideal customers by inviting them as guests, potentially leading to business opportunities. Number 8, consider creating your own products based on audience interest demonstrated through successful affiliate partnerships or sponsorships. Number 9, owning your platform, such as an email list, website, or membership site, is crucial for long-term stability and control over your content and audience. And finally, number 10, charging guests to appear on your show can be a viable monetization strategy if done transparently and without compromising content quality. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode. I wish you success in your podcast. And if you're looking for a great podcasting platform, I recommend you check out PodUp. PodUp is our platform, and it has 35 integrated modules to help you create, grow, and monetize your podcast. You can get a free trial at podup.com.